43%. 43% of e-commerce leaders say they have already faced a web accessibility lawsuit or a formal claim.
Yeah, that is a massive number.
Right. I mean, it's not a theoretical risk. It's not, some projection for next quarter. 43% of them have faced a finalized, actionable legal claim.
And, the phrasing in that survey data is really the most critical part of that whole statistic. Have faced. We are talking about events that have already happened.
Yeah, the damage is done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Legal actions that have already been filed, financial hits that have already been absorbed. And this is by businesses ranging from, small boutique brands to massive, massive enterprises.
Okay, let's unpack this, because our mission for this deep dive is to completely shift how you, the listener, look at web accessibility. Because for the longest time, whenever the word accessibility came up in a meeting, you could almost see the oxygen just leave the room.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Everyone just deflates.
Right, because it was viewed as this purely defensive maneuver, like a legal department checkbox, or just a compliance headache that slowed down the product roadmap. But based on the set of sources we're looking at today, that era is entirely over.
It's completely done.
Yeah. Accessibility is no longer just about avoiding a penalty. It is, frankly, the definitive factor determining who actually wins and loses in modern digital retail.
And just to ground our discussion here, the insights we're pulling from today come from a really comprehensive body of research.
It's a huge study.
It is. It involves survey data conducted with Qualtrics, direct input from nonprofit leaders, ground-level realities from disability community organizations. But more to the point, it captures the raw, unfiltered insights of over 300 e-commerce leaders,
Right.
alongside members of the disability community. So we have this really clear view of both sides of the screen, essentially.
Yeah.
The people engineering the stores and the people actually trying to transact in them.
And the overarching theme across all this research, which is wild, is that the infrastructure of the internet is just buckling under new pressures right now.
Yeah, the old ways just aren't holding up.
Exactly. We're looking at, 5 seemingly distinct trends happening in e-commerce right now. You've got intensifying litigation, a massive hemorrhage in cart abandonment, the explosion of voice commerce, the rapid integration of AI chat search, and then marketing's relentless push for hyper-personalization.
And on the surface, those look like totally disparate issues.
Yeah.
Right? Managed by entirely different departments.
Right, like operations sweats the abandoned carts, innovation chases the AI stuff.
Marketing pours all their budget into personalization.
Yeah, and legal is just in the basement trying to hold back the lawsuits.
Exactly. They sit on different floors, they look at different analytics dashboards, they hold completely separate strategy meetings. But the reality hidden in this data is that they're all trying to solve the exact same underlying structural failure.
Which is just a crazy invisible thread connecting them all. So let's start with the most immediate pain point, the one that's, forcing this conversation into the boardroom right now in 2025. The legal landscape.
Yeah, the stick, basically.
Right, the stick. We are moving away from these abstract ideas of compliance because the legal pressures have shifted from a slow boil to just an absolute pressure cooker.
What's fascinating here is the sheer volume and the focus of the litigation. We are looking at nearly 5,000 accessibility lawsuits filed in 2025 alone.
5,000.
Yes, and that represents a 20% increase year over year. And the vast majority of these are targeting e-commerce operations specifically.
Wow.
It's no longer a scattered approach by plaintiffs. It is a highly systematized legal strategy now. And beyond the domestic lawsuits, the international pressures are becoming a literal hard gate for revenue.
Like the European Accessibility Act, right?
Exactly, the EAA. It's taking full effect right now, alongside tightening UK regulations. And the EAA essentially mandates that digital products and services sold into Europe must meet strict accessibility criteria, period.
But honestly, compliance has always been a cost center. I look at these numbers and I have to put on my CFO hat for a second.
Okay, let's hear it.
If the average cost of a legal action in this space is sitting in the range of, say, $5,000 to $25,000, why wouldn't a CFO just factor a $25,000 settlement into the annual budget?
Treat it like a speeding ticket.
Exactly. Like,
Yeah.
if I'm running a mid-sized online brand, spending $150,000 on a massive 6-month development sprint to completely re-platform our website, that just seems like terrible math compared to paying the fine and treating it as the cost of doing business.
Well, that is the exact mathematical trap a lot of mid-market executives fall into.
It seems logical on a spreadsheet, right?
It does. But the flaw in that logic is twofold. First, settling out of court doesn't magically patch the vulnerability in your code.
Oh, right.
You pay the $25,000, and the next day, your site is still non-compliant, leaving you totally exposed to a second, third, or fourth claim. You're essentially paying a subscription fee to remain legally vulnerable.
A subscription fee for vulnerability. That is a great way to put it. And the second flaw.
The second flaw is that the $25,000 legal hit is just the visible tip of the iceberg.
Ah.
You are so focused on the legal penalty that you are completely blind to the operational penalty. And the operational penalty is currently bleeding an estimated $260 billion a year in recoverable sales across the industry.
Wait, 260 billion? With a B?
With a B, every single year.
Just in abandoned carts.
Yes.
Wow, this is where the research gets incredibly revealing for me. We treat checkout leakage and accessibility as totally separate diseases, diagnosed by entirely different doctors.
Yeah.
Operations is in one room running A/B tests on button colors trying to save abandoned carts, while legal is in another room just worrying about the EAA.
And they are looking at the exact same symptom and misdiagnosing the root cause because they do not share a vocabulary. When operations looks at a massive drop-off at the payment gateway, they assume a behavioral issue.
Right, they think the shopper changed their mind.
Or found a better price on a competitor's site, or just got distracted by a text message.
But the data suggests it is often a mechanical failure, not a behavioral one.
Exactly.
Can you explain the mechanism here? Like, how does a lack of accessibility physically manifest as an abandoned cart?
Sure. So it comes down to how assistive technology interacts with the document object model, or the DOM, of a website.
Okay.
Imagine a shopper using a screen reader, or someone who relies entirely on keyboard navigation because, say, a motor impairment prevents them from using a traditional mouse.
Got it.
They spent time on your site, they want your product, they have put it in their cart, and they are literally on the checkout page trying to hand you their credit card.
But the site physically rejects the transaction.
Precisely, because of how the page is coded. For keyboard navigation to work, a user relies on the tab key to jump between actionable items like text fields, drop-downs, and buttons.
Sure.
But if a developer builds a custom checkout button using a generic graphical element like a div tag and merely styles it to look like a button visually, the keyboard simply skips right over it.
Oh, because it's not a real button in the code.
Right. The site doesn't recognize it as something the user can actually interact with. It creates what we call a digital keyboard trap. The user is stuck tabbing in an endless loop around the payment fields, entirely unable to trigger the final purchase.
That is a staggering realization. I mean, it's like having a physical retail store where the cash register is mounted on a 5-foot pedestal.
Yes.
Customers are standing there waving their wallets, wanting to buy your merchandise, and when they finally give up in exhaustion and walk out the door, the store manager writes down in a notebook, "I guess our shipping rates are too high."
And the crazy part is, the data explicitly reflects that exact misdiagnosis. The survey reveals that 1 in 4 shoppers cite unexpected costs as their reason for abandonment.
Okay, but how does that tie back to the code?
Well, on an analytics dashboard, an operations manager sees unexpected costs and immediately starts drafting a campaign for free shipping to win those customers back, right?
Right.
But if the underlying code for the shipping calculator is a mess, the screen reader might just read out shipping blank calculate without properly articulating the choices.
Oh, I see.
So the user encounters intense friction, they feel they don't understand the final total, and they abandon the session. The analytics platform logs a drop-off at the shipping module, and operations categorizes it as a pricing objection.
So you're saying that data is literally a hallucination caused by bad code?
Exactly. The friction of an inaccessible site muddies your session data so badly that your analytics are actively lying to you about why your customers are leaving.
Okay, so if the legal exposure and the hundreds of billions lost in cart abandonment are the stick, let's pivot and talk about the carrot. Because the very mechanics of how consumers actually interact with the internet are changing fundamentally right now.
They really are.
We are moving rapidly away from the static, scrollable, visual interfaces that have defined the web for the last 2 decades. And here's where it gets really interesting. We need to talk about voice commerce.
Ah, yes, voice.
According to the research, voice commerce has evolved from a novelty into a mainstream channel worth over $80 billion this year alone.
And the trajectory of voice commerce provides the clearest historical precedent for why accessibility is actually an innovation engine.
How so?
Consider the origins of voice technology. It was not conceived so someone could lazily order paper towels from their couch. It started as a highly specialized niche accessibility feature. It was engineered specifically for individuals with physical or visual limitations that prevented them from interacting with a traditional screen and keyboard. It was an accommodation designed for the margins of the user base.
And today, half of all U.S. consumers use voice to shop.
Exactly.
People are ordering groceries via the dashboard while driving. They're reordering household supplies through smart speakers while cooking, querying product reviews while their hands are full.
Right, it's everywhere.
An accommodation built for a fraction of the population has been universally adopted because it provides a frictionless experience for everyone.
But the hidden catch that most e-commerce leaders miss is the technical requirement of voice commerce. Voice assistants, whether it's Alexa, Siri, or Google Assistant, they do not possess human eyeballs.
Obviously not.
They cannot appreciate your beautifully designed, high-resolution product imagery. They rely entirely on clean, semantic HTML to understand what is on your website. If your infrastructure is not built to accessibility standards, those voice assistants literally cannot read your store. You are functionally invisible to an $80 billion channel.
Which means if consumers are already outsourcing their browsing to voice assistants, the logical next step is that they are outsourcing the actual decision-making to AI agents.
Yes.
Which brings us to the explosion of AI chat search as a shopping tool. We are seeing consumers bypass traditional search engine results pages entirely.
Totally. They aren't scrolling through 10 blue links anymore.
No, they're using ChatGPT, Google's Gemini, or Amazon's Rufus to ask, find me the best waterproof hiking boots under $100 available in a size 10.
And the mechanism of AI search introduces an entirely new layer of urgency here. We have a tendency to anthropomorphize
AI. We're for sure. We think of it as a person.
Right. We think of it as a highly intelligent human speed reading our website. It is not. It is a machine parsing structured code.
Let me try an analogy here.
Go for it.
Imagine sending a personal shopper into a massive grocery store to buy your groceries, but every single can on the shelves has had its label ripped off.
Okay.
The food is perfectly fine inside, but the personal shopper, the AI, has absolutely no idea what it is looking at, so it cannot confidently put any of those cans into your cart. If your site lacks structured, accessible markup, you have basically ripped the labels off your products.
That's a great way to look at it. And the labels in this context are things like ARIA labels, accessible rich internet applications, proper heading structures, and alt text on images.
Okay.
If an AI assistant is scanning the web on behalf of a consumer, it relies on that structured markup to confidently understand your product catalog, its pricing, and its specifications. If your site is a visual masterpiece but a coded disaster, the AI simply skips you.
It just walks right past the aisle.
Exactly.
And let's elevate this to the business metrics that matter right now. If your customer acquisition cost, your CAC is already through the roof because traditional digital ad channels are saturated, you rely on organic discovery to balance the math.
You have to.
Right. So if an AI agent cannot parse your product schema, your return on ad spend plummets because you are completely locked out of the next generation of organic search. You don't just drop to page 2 of the rankings. You cease to exist in that discovery channel.
And yet we see teams spending millions of dollars trying to adapt their brand to AI conversational search, right? But they are operating completely disconnected from the front-end development teams who are supposed to be fixing the accessibility code.
They're trying to solve a code problem with a marketing budget.
Yes. They are trying to solve an AI visibility problem with marketing strategy when the solution is actually an infrastructure problem.
Which sets up a massive collision with the final trend highlighted in the research. Marketing's absolute obsession with hyper-personalization.
Oh, this is where it gets really messy.
Everyone in e-commerce wants to deliver a bespoke, perfectly tailored journey for every single click. They want dynamic product carousels, specialized discount overlays, and individualized recommendations firing off based on real-time behavior.
Right, but the collision occurs because you cannot sustainably personalize an experience if the fundamental architecture is broken for the individual trying to navigate it.
Give me an example.
Well, hyper-personalization requires a massive amount of dynamic data injection into the DOM. Think about the mechanics of a dynamic 10% off pop-up.
Oh, right, the classic exit intent pop-up. Everyone knows those.
Visually, it covers the center of the screen, darkening the background so the sighted user focuses on the discount code.
Yep.
But in the underlying code, if that pop-up lacks proper focus trapping, a screen reader user is completely unaware it even exists.
Wait, really?
Yes.
Yeah.
They're still using their keyboard to tab through the underlying page, reading the product descriptions in the background, entirely cut off from the checkout button because the invisible, inaccessible pop-up is intercepting all their keystrokes.
So they're just trapped. They can't check out, and they don't even know why. You're trying to put luxury, customized finishes on a house with a crumbling foundation. You add layers of dynamic pop-ups, custom overlays, and customized chat widgets, and you are just pouring digital concrete over the very people trying to navigate it.
The friction just compounds. The more aggressive the marketing team gets with personalization, the more hostile the environment becomes for users relying on assistive technology, which accelerates the cart abandonment we discussed earlier.
Okay, let's pull the camera way back. We have dissected the legal threats, the operations failure at checkout, the shift toward voice, the rise of AI agents, and the marketing collision with personalization.
It's a lot.
It is a lot. But if we connect this to the bigger picture...
The central thesis of this entire body of research becomes unavoidable.
Right.
Accessibility is the underlying thread. When you weave accessibility into your foundation, it fundamentally alters the physics of your business.
Absolutely.
It turns legal compliance from a persistent vulnerability into structural resilience. It turns checkout friction into captured conversions and recovered revenue. It turns the voice commerce boom into mainstream customer loyalty. It turns AI chat search into unprecedented brand visibility. And it allows hyper-personalization to build genuine consumer trust rather than digital roadblocks.
But, let me play devil's advocate for a second. People are exhausted by being told every new year this is the massive inflection point. Why should we believe 2025 is actually a turning point for this?
It's a fair question. It's real because it's not a single pressure. It's not just the EAA or just AI. It's the simultaneous convergence of legal vulnerability, massive financial leakage, and a fundamental shift in the discovery channel itself.
It's a perfect storm.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean? The conclusion we have to draw from these sources is that accessibility has completely shed its old identity. It is no longer philanthropy. It is not a moral nice-to-have that you tackle when there's leftover budget in Q4. It is fundamental digital infrastructure. It is exactly as vital to the survival of a modern retail business as your inventory management software, your site speed, or your payment processing gateway.
If your payment gateway goes down, you lose money. And it's an all-hands-on-deck emergency.
Right.
Well, if your site isn't accessible today, you lose money, you invite lawsuits, and you vanish from AI search. We have reached a maturation point in the digital space.
A maturation point. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, think about physical architecture. We stopped asking if a commercial building needs wheelchair ramps and fire exits decades ago.
Of course.
We understand that is simply how architecture works to serve the public. The internet has finally reached that exact same baseline of maturity.
And that brings the implications of this deep dive directly to you listening right now. It doesn't matter if you are a product manager trying to build a smoother checkout flow, a legal officer trying to mitigate risk, an e-commerce executive trying to hit quarterly targets against rising acquisition costs, or just someone intensely curious about how the internet is evolving under the hood.
Right.
If you sell anything online, or frankly, if you buy anything online, this is simply the mechanics of how the internet works from 2025 onward.
This raises an important question, actually, one that I think listeners should mull over as they look at their own roadmaps.
What's that?
Well, we established how voice shopping started purely as a niche accessibility tool, designed for people with severe physical limitations. And it unexpectedly scaled into an $80 billion mainstream empire utilized by half the country.
Right.
So if you start intentionally designing your business for the margins today, what entirely new multi-billion-dollar mainstream consumer behavior are you accidentally inventing for tomorrow?
Wow. When you solve a problem for the margins, you almost inevitably unlock the future for the mainstream. 43% of your peers have already hit the wall because they were treating accessibility like an afterthought.
It's true.
But now you have the map. You know that accessibility isn't a compliance hurdle. It is the hull of the ship itself. It is the core infrastructure that keeps you afloat, visible, and profitable in the age of AI, voice search, and hyper-personalization. It's time to stop diagnosing the exact same disease with entirely different departments and start treating the foundation.